Hey monsters, for the final distance learning lesson, we are taking a look at metrics, and we're getting revisited by, of course, me, the Lego version of Mr. Niewayne. To help us out with our metrics, we are going to be using some Legos. Actually, we're going to be using the supersized Legos. So I've got a friend joining me. It's Mr. Duplo. So Mr. Duplo, you want to go ahead and tell everybody the objective for this week?
Yeah, thanks, Lego Mr. Niewayne. I can measure length, mass, and volume using metric measurement tools. I can convert metric measurements using multiplication and division, and through knowledge of prefixes on base units. So Lego Mr. Niewayne, can you tell us why we're on the stairs?
Oh, of course, yeah. On the stairs, it's going to make it easier for you and me to use this giant stack of Duplos to demonstrate how things move on the metric ladder. We're going to use the staircase as our metric ladder. We're going to use that bottom Duplo as our base unit, which is going to be either a meter, a liter, or a gram. And then those smaller blocks will help us identify how far we are from the base unit and as far as what the math is going through the different prefixes. You want to help me out with that today, Mr. Duplo?
You know it.
All right, well then let's get started. As I did with last week, I want to break this down. I put it into the hyperdoc with specific links to specific portions of this video. But in case you want to just find it yourself, I'm going to go ahead and let you do that this way by leaving you a blank screen. All right, so I am going to jump into this one and just review what our measuring tools look like so we are familiar with them. We've got three basic units, of course, the liter, the meter, and the gram. And so for liters, we're going to be using a measuring cup just like this. You probably have one in your kitchen at home. For the grams, the mass, we're going to be using a little kitchen scale like this. If you don't have one, that's okay. We're going to review some options on how you can measure that stuff as well. And then for your distance, your measuring tools, of course, I have a meter stick, which you may or may not have. However, I also, you guys know green's my favorite color, I have a tape measure that has metric on it. So I'm going to show you how these tools all work. Just to kind of clarify those things here at the start before we go into metric ladder and doing our metric conversions. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at how each of these tools work right here. Thanks so much. Okay, so a lot of people just have a scale like this. They sell them at Aldi, sometimes even at Dollar Tree, Walmart, Target, pretty much everywhere. They're usually about $5. So people use these for a kitchen scale. You might want to measure out how much pasta you're going to eat, like a serving of pasta on the back of a box of spaghetti usually says 2 ounces. So because of that, we're usually set on pounds and ounces, as you can see my scale is. To change that, you're going to hit this mode button right here. And so we want to change our mode to grams, which is going to make it metric. Now, let's say we already had something on there. Boom. So we had that on there. If you need to re-zero it, you go ahead and hold down your on-off button. I actually just turned it off, my bad. But so that'll re-zero it. Now if I take the tape measure off of there, obviously it goes negative. So I'm going to reset. Okay, and then we can check how much the Lego version of me weighs, how much mass it has. So it's going to be 7 grams. Or you could check out, let's say, a can of soup. Got this nice chicken with rice, put that on there. 487 grams. Now, if you don't have one of these scales, totally respect that. This can of soup actually has on it net weight. That's not very clear. Okay, net weight, still not coming out clear. I don't know why. 15 ounces, 425 grams. And so when we add on the weight of the can, we see it goes up to 487. But if you only can look at a net weight on a can like that, that is perfectly fine. Go ahead and write that mass down if you're taking a look at that part of the assignment where you're measuring stuff at your own house. That is how you measure with metric in mass. Okay, now if you've got a meter stick at home or a 1-inch school ruler with centimeters on it, perfectly fine to use that. But many of your home measuring tapes like this do in fact have metric and inch graduations on them. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to pull it open and we'll take a look at the metrics. Okay, on this particular tape measure, you can see at the bottom part, It's counting up by ones, and then each time it hits a 10, goes by ones again, simply for the conservation of space. But these are your centimeters. So over here at this 7, that's actually going to be 17 centimeters, showing you how to measure with metrics. So that is measuring length with metric. All right, finally we want to measure volume with metrics, and we should know that metric volume is actually going to be measured in liters. At least that's the base unit. And so on your basic measuring cup at home, usually it has cups on one side and milliliters on the other side. You can see this one goes up to a quarter liter. So as with the earlier example of the can of soup, got a couple options. I have this can of Dr. Pepper, which says 12 fluid ounces, 355 milliliters. And then my measuring cup only goes up to 250, but we could add that up by putting it into my Redbird cup, of course. So let's take a look at the measurement there. You go ahead and carefully pour to try not to have too much. Nope, just gonna disaster foam taking over. All right, so for the sake of time, to not have the foam, I'm gonna pour, dump into the Redbird cup, and then we'll measure out the rest of it to check the measurement against the can. Okay, so that's our first 250 milliliters. We want to keep measuring, so we'll pour this into my drink. And then since it should be 355 total, there should be about 105 milliliters left in the can. Let's check it out. Okay, so it looks like it's actually even a little bit more, about 125 milliliters. So that does fairly match up. And that shows you how to measure your volume using either a measuring cup or the label. Okay, so I am rejoined by Mr. Duplo as we take a look at the metric ladder. Fortunately, we have a large staircase with a turn in the middle. So for the base unit, which Mr. Duplo is standing on, we will be right in the middle of the staircase. When we go down the stairs to get smaller, we'll literally go down the stairs. And when we go up the stairs to get larger, we'll go up. So let's take a look at a couple examples of how the metric ladder works, trying to understand which way we're moving and if we are multiplying by 10 or dividing by 10. So for each of our 10s, this single block Duplo is going to represent a 10, and whatever our base unit is going to be this wider Duplo that Mr. Duplo is standing on. So if we go deci, we are going down one stair, and since we're going down, the Duplo goes underneath. And we can see that there are 10 decimeters or deciliters or decigrams in one base unit. Since each of those 10s, each of those little blocks represents a 10. Now, if we go down to centi, we can see written on the wall we have 100. So it's going to be 2 of these blocks. 10 times 10, because 2 blocks put together is multiplication, is going to be 100. And we can see the base unit comes down. There are 100 of this smaller unit, the centi, in one base unit. Now finally, if we go down to milli, we see that there are 3 of our units here. 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 cubed, is 1,000. And that means that there are 1,000 of the milli unit in one base unit. So that is how we go down the metric ladder. Now let's try going up. Okay, so to go up the metric ladder, we again start with Mr. Duplo at the base unit. And then when we go up one stair, we are multiplying, or I'm sorry, we're dividing And so we can see that it is 1/10 the base unit at deca. As we go up another stair to hecto, which means 100, we'll see that it becomes 2, so 100th of a base unit. So if we're looking at the actual base unit here, let's say we're looking at how many meters are in a hectometer. There are 100 meters in a hectometer. So 1 meter is 1/100th of a hectometer. Now finally, if we go all the way up to kilo, one meter is 1/1000th of a kilometer, because we go from our base, multiply it by 10, 1 times 10 is 10, times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. So there's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. That's how we move up the metric scale. Okay, so now we have just the basic conversions, doing some simple math within that metric scale. So we're going to redraw our scale. So this scale here looks the same as my staircase over there, except that it's just a straight up and down with no turn in the middle. And so what we're going to use with that scale, every time we jump, we're jumping basically 10 points. So we're moving the 0 or moving the decimal point. So if we are going from, let's say, 400 kilograms down to grams, so we're looking at 400 kilograms equals grams. We are going to simply go from here, jump 1, jump 2, jump 3. So we jump our 3 spots down to base. Now if we take our 400, as we jump those spots, that is moving our decimal point. And since we jumped that way, we're moving our decimal point that way. 1, 2, 3. 400,000 grams is the equal to 400 kilograms. Okay, let's do a couple more of those real quick. Okay, so if we go from 50 centimeters to decameters, so we are going from centimeters, going up, 1, 2, 3 to decameters. Same thing as before, taking our 50, put our decimal point in there, and since the movement is going to the left, we are going to move our decimal to the left. Goes 3 places, means we have to add a 0. So our answer is going to be 0.050 decameters. And that is the abbreviation DKM. It's kind of a weird one. I would just write out the word decameters because sometimes you see deca spelled with a C as well. Okay, final one. Let's pretend you got that giant thing up top, the 3-liter bottle. That Chicago Zone or whatever it's called. How many milliliters are in there? Because hopefully you're not going to drink the full 3 liters yourself. So since we're going to milliliters, we're going to jump onto our scale. We're going down 1, 2, 3 down to here. Okay, and then we'll rewrite our 3. We're going to make it 3.0. And then notice that for liters and milliliters, our abbreviation is a capital L. That's very important to note as well. We're moving this way, so we're going to move our decimal point that way as well. 1, 2, 3. 3,000 milliliters. That's your conversion factors. I'm going to do one last quick thing with just a couple of regular maths, because that comes up in one of the quiz options for this week's choice boards. We got just a little bit of basic math we want to take a look at here. So we got 12 cans of pop and 5 friends. And then if an apple is 12 grams, how much is a bag of 8 apples? So for the first one, we're going to just do division. 12 cans divided by 5 friends. Write it out that way. 12 divided by 5 is going to be 2.4 cans per person. Okay. And then 12 apples, 12 ounce apples, 8 apples. And so for that one, we're going to be doing multiplication. 12 grams times 8. It's just like that, 12 times 8. And that's basic multiplication tables, so hopefully you know that that is 96 grams. If it did cross 100 grams, we could have changed it into a different unit. We're going to go ahead and leave it as regular grams there because that's what seems to make sense. All right, that's your metric unit. Hopefully that review stuff was helpful. Metric ladder and the conversion factors, and then just using metric tools. Those are things that you may want to have for your choice boards. If you have questions, of course, feel free to come on by. Tuesday drop-in hours are 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning. Thursday drop-in hours are 2:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. Next week, there's not a new lesson like this, but it is the last week of school. We will be doing some final week activities and interactions. So I will see you digitally then. If you decide not to drop by, it's, of course, your prerogative. As I end every daily vlog, and I've been trying to do it in the weeklies as well, of course, take care of yourself and each other. Stay safe. Wash your hands. From my household to yours, we love you. On behalf of all your teachers, we love you. We hope that you stay safe. We look forward to seeing you in the future.